Hello, folks, and welcome back to twitch.tv/games with Nick. We are back again today with the continuing adventures of Sherlock Holmes. It's been probably about a month since we played one of these. We're gonna try to play through the entire Sherlock Holmes series by Frogwares. So far, we have covered the mystery of the Silver Earring, fought back the forces of chaos and a Cthulhu cult, and defeated Arsène Lupin in his quest to capture the crown jewels of England. Today, we are faced with our most mysterious adversary yet, Jack Ripper. Right. I hope all the settings have changed are kept.
In the name of my health and yours, Holmes, stop smoking so much. There is more fog in our apartment than in the street.
Quick change. Let me just volume a little bit.
You are right, Watson, but this evening is never ending, and I have nothing to do but make smoke rings. A more amusing pastime would suit better, but my doctor is against it.
Perhaps a little tune on the violin.
My heart is not in it tonight, Watson. Have you noticed how this cigarette burns? Would you not say it is like a life being consumed? How many lives will end tonight in London? How many crimes will be committed within the life of a single cigarette? Ah, the vanity of existence. It is but complaints and smoke, the meagre panache of its sickly soul.
The tobacco is giving you very somber thoughts. I am certain that this inactivity will not last. Let's retire. You'll be in better humour tomorrow.
Reason speaks. Let's to bed.
And while we sleep, we are in the depths of Whitechapel. Prostitutes are finding clients. It is August 31st, 1888. The wee hours of the morning.
Come this way, my lovely. We'll have a right good time. Wait, let me help you. Oh, it's my hair that pleases you.
One more victim in this foggy night of London. But the worst is yet to come. Ooh. Sounds are a little disturbing.
The news is as dark as the sky, Holmes. An inquest has been opened into the murder of a poor woman in the East End.
Oh, damn it. I thought for sure Whitechapel was in the West End. East End.
The murderer was filled with an incredible savagery. Oh, the article gave me shivers down my spine. The inspectors in charge of the case don't seem to have even the slightest lead. A similar murder took place less than a month ago.
Ah, love. A romantic walk, a kiss in the moonlight, a polite refusal, a terrible anger, and a hanging.
This area of Whitechapel is a disgrace to London. The government should take serious note of what is going on there.
Whitechapel? This woman was found in Whitechapel?
Yes, indeed. Bucks Row, to be specific.
Then it was not a question of romance, but of commerce. Unless these women actually take pleasure in the vice, the female nature is completely...
Holmes, do you hear yourself? A woman is dead under unspeakable circumstances. No less than any other, she was a human and one of Her Majesty's subjects. None of these streetwalkers of which you speak have any other way to survive but by selling their bodies. You know as well as I that our era is not a gentle one, and these women don't have much to look forward to. Some grace, if you would. Do not refuse them your compassion.
Do not say another word, my dear Watson. We shall leave immediately for Whitechapel.
To the scene of the crime?
No, I think it would be better to arrive there a bit later once night has fallen. At the moment, the spot will be overrun by police officers and spectators. It would be impossible to investigate properly.
Then where are we going, Holmes?
The best thing to do would be to head to the police station and attempt to get a copy of the preliminary reports.
But the article in that Star seemed quite complete to me.
You must know, Watson, that journalists often draw conclusions from the facts without a proper understanding of how to do this delicate task. We must obtain the reports from the inspector in charge, as well as those from the coroner.
Very well, Holmes, but all the same.
It seems to me that I have a map of London somewhere, Watson. Can you find it and locate Whitechapel while I get ready?
You are too kind, Holmes. Searching through your mess?
Special edition, The Whitechapel Horror, the third crime of a man who must be a maniac. Women lured to by streets to be butchered. The latest victim identified. Opening of the inquest. Great local excitement. The victim of the latest Whitechapel Horror, the woman who was found yesterday morning in Bucks Row completely disemboweled and with her head nearly gashed from her body, was for a time completely unknown. As the news of the murder spread, however, first one woman and then another came forward to view the body, and at length it was found that a woman answering the description of the murdered woman had lodged in a common lodging house, 18th Trawle Street, Spiatfields. The women from the place were fetched, and they identified the deceased as Polly, who had shared a room with 3 other women in the place on the usual terms of such houses. Nightly payment of 4 shillings each. It's a shilling? Is it a shilling? I think it's a shilling. 4 shilling each. Each woman having a separate bed. It was gathered that the deceased had led the life of an unfortunate while lodging in the house, which was only for about 3 weeks past. Nothing more was known of her by them, but that when she presented herself for a lodging on Thursday night, she was turned away by the deputy because she had not the money. She was then the worse for drink, but not drunk, and turned away laughing, saying, "I'll soon get my dust money. See what a jolly bonnet I've got now." She was wearing a bonnet which she had not been seen before, and left the lodging house door. A woman of the neighborhood saw her later, she told the police, even as late as 2:30 on Friday morning, in Whitechapel Road, opposite the church at the corner of Osborne Street, and at 3:45 she was found within 500 yards of the spot murdered. The people of the lodging house knew her as Polly, but about 7:30 last evening, a woman named Marianne Monk, at present an inmate of Lambeth Workhouse, was taken to the mortuary and identified the body as that of Marianne Nichols, also called Polly Nichols. Knew her, she said, as they were inmates of the Lambeth Workhouse together in April and May last, the deceased having been passed there from another workhouse. On May 12th, according to Monk, Nichols left the workhouse to take a situation as servant at Ingleside, once were common. It afterwards became known that Nichols betrayed her trust as a domestic servant by stealing £3 from her employer and absconding. From that time, she had been wandering about. Monk met her, she said, about 6 weeks ago, when herself out of the workhouse, and drank with her. She was sure the deceased was Polly Nichols, and having twice viewed the features as the body lay in a shell, maintained her opinion. This is a terribly significant similarity between this ghastly crime and the 2 mysterious murders of women which have occurred in the same district within the last 3 months. In each case, the victim has been a woman of abandoned character. Each crime has been committed in the dark hours of the morning, and more important still is pointing to one man, and that man is a maniac. Being the culprit, each murder has been accompanied by hideous mutilation. In the second case, that of the woman Martha Turner, it will be remembered that no fewer than 30 stabs were inflicted. The scene of this murder was George Yard, but is appropriately known as locally as the slaughterhouse. As in both cases, there was in this not the slightest clue to the murderer. No one was known to have any motive for causing the woman's death. She was parted from her husband and had lived with a man named Turner, but the searching coroner's inquiry revealed nothing connecting either with the crime. It was fancied that some of her many wounds had been caused by a bayonet, and she was said to have been seen walking with a soldier shortly before her death. Some soldiers were paraded at the tower, and one was said to have been identified by a policeman as having been waiting about George Yard just about the time of the murder. But nothing came of it. The first murder, which, strangely enough, did not rouse much interest, was committed in Osborne Street. The woman in that case was alive when discovered, but unconscious, and she died in the hospital without recovering her senses. Consequently, she was unable to whisper a word to put the police on the track of her fiendish assailant, and her murder has remained a mystery. All three crimes have been committed within a very small radius. Each of the ill-lighted thoroughfares to which the women were decoyed to be foully butchered are off turnings from Whitechapel Road, and all are within half a mile. The fact that these tragedies have been committed within such a limited area and are so strangely alike in their details is forcing on all minds the conviction that they are the work of some cool, cunning man with a mania for murder. There was no new light thrown on the case this morning. At 9 o'clock, the body of the deceased was removed from the mortuary to an improvised operating room on the premises, and Dr. Ralph Elwin made a post-mortem examination. The object of the examination was to determine, if possible, the order in which the various cuts were made. It is evident from the cuts in the throat that the head was bent back by the murderer before the knife was used. Whether the other mutilations took place before or after that remains to be settled, as also the position in which the woman lay when the deed done. There are several questions of this kind which may throw light on the case, notably the small quantity of blood at the place where she was found, and the fact that there must have been much of it somewhere else. At present, clues to the murder are entirely lacking, and the location of the place where the deed was done was the first point necessary to establish. Alright. Let me just do the tutorial first. Alright. First person. I'm a first person boy for these.
Well, well, Holmes has received some French champagne with a card, a gift from a young admirer, signed Raoul d'Andrecy. Who on earth could that be?
I'm sure it is Arsène Lupin.
Holmes's experiment table.
And the map on the table.
A
Yep.
map of London, at last. Let's see. The district of Whitechapel. I found the map, Holmes, and I was able to locate the Whitechapel police station.
Congratulations, Watson. Come, the game is afoot. You can read the article to me on the way.
Whitechapel,
Right,
September
Watson.
1st.
In Whitechapel.
Not very bright, and what cold. Brr, a typical London morning.
Come, Watson, let's find this police station.
Alright.
Well, this station isn't very well kept, I say.
It's a local outpost, Watson. The daily tasks that confront these constables are not the easiest, and they are poorly paid.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Hello, I would like to speak with the Chief Inspector, if you please.
Constable Humphreys here. I am the only one in at the moment. What do you want with the chief?
My name is Sherlock Holmes. I am...
Sherlock Holmes? The detective that I read about in the papers? Well, that's a treat, that is. You come about the Buck Road case, have you? Indeed, we...
Not at all. We were just passing by chance. You say that there was a crime recently.
You don't know? You must be the only folk in London who haven't heard.
It won't be long until you find the culprit, no doubt.
Nothing is less certain. Suspects, 0. Clues, 0. It's not good for us, especially not in this district.
Okay, talk to me about the reports.
Listen, this isn't what I came here for, but if I can be of service, in a confidential capacity, of course, if you can entrust me with a copy of the preliminary reports, I could study them and return later with my conclusions.
It's just that these are official documents. I can't take a decision like that without the inspectors.
The sooner we know the facts in the file, the sooner we can be of help, my friend.
Say, if you are Sherlock Holmes, you can find anything, isn't that true? With your magnifying glass, footprints?
My performance is often embellished by my biographer.
Ah, good. Good. I will give you the reports, but could you do me a small favour first? During my rounds, I dropped a leather folder containing some papers. Nothing of importance, but it's a big mistake. I would go looking for it myself, but I am stuck here on duty. I must have lost it near the seedy boarding house not far from here. Left when you leave the courtyard and left again in the lane. Perhaps you could go ask around.
Goodbye.
We shall see what we can do. Are we going to go look for these documents?
Why not? It'll give us an occasion to take a tour of the district, Watson. Good day, sir. You wouldn't happen to have seen a leather folder on the ground around here, would you?
Good day, gentlemen. Finley, caretaker of this building. Here to serve. And yes, less than an hour ago. But some of the local urchins picked it up and God only knows where it might be now.
That's unfortunate. This police bag contained documents that the local police will miss.
You're inspectors.
Not at all. I am Dr. Watson, and this is Sherlock Holmes, the detective.
Sherlock Holmes, the great detective. You must be here about last night's murder. Have you discovered the identity of the poor woman?
Indeed, I'd only to read the papers.
Mine is dated from this morning, and it does not say who it is.
Alright.
I'm not really engaged in this case, but if I can help the police, I will do so willingly.
Oh, to be sure. I've been told that Inspector Aberline is in charge. A very capable man.
So, according to you, I have no chance of finding this folder then?
Indeed. But I, on the other hand, should be able to find it. Do me a favour in exchange. A vagrant comes almost every night to sleep in one of the nooks not far from my windows. He coughs, howls, sometimes even sings. He's quite hefty and I don't dare approach him. I've lost 3 tenants because of him. If it's you who speaks to the police, they will take this matter more seriously. Tell them about the captain. They'll know who you're talking about. In the meantime, I'll find your police bag.
This is the East London Advertiser from this morning. Another Whitechapel mystery. Horrible murder in Bucks Row, Whitechapel. Curiously as the horror and sensation caused by the discovery of the murdered woman in Whitechapel some short time ago had time to abate when another discovery is made, which, for the brutality exercised on the victim, is even more shocking and will no doubt create as great a sensation in the vicinity as its predecessor. The affair up to the present is enveloped in a complete mystery, and the police have as yet no evidence to trace the perpetrators of the horrible deed. The facts are that Constable John Neal was walking down Bucks Row, Thomas Street, Whitechapel, about 3:15 on Friday morning, when he discovered a woman between 35 and 40 years of age lying at the side of the street with her throat cut right open from ear to ear, the instrument with which the deed was done traversing the throat from left to right. The wound was about 2 inches wide and blood was flowing profusely. She was discovered to be lying in a pool of blood. She was immediately conveyed to the Whitechapel mortuary when it was found that besides the wound in the throat, the lower part of the abdomen was completely ripped open with the bowels protruding. The wound extends nearly to her breast and must have been effected with a large knife. As the corpse lies in the mortuary, it presents a ghastly sight. The victim seems to be between 35 and 40 years of age and measures 5 feet 2 inches in height. The hands are bruised and bear evidence of having engaged in a severe struggle. There is the impression of a ring having been worn on one of the deceased's fingers, but there is nothing to show that it had been wrenched from her in a struggle. Some of the front teeth also have been knocked out, and the face is bruised on both cheeks and very much discolored. The deceased wore a rough brown ulster with large buttons in front. Her clothes are torn and cut up in several places, showing evidence of the ferocity with which the murder was committed. The only way by which the police can prosecute an inquiry at present is by finding someone who can identify the deceased, and then, if possible, trace those in whose company she was last seen. In Bucks Row, naturally, the greatest excitement prevails, and several persons in the neighborhood state that an affray occurred shortly after midnight, but no screams were heard, nor anything beyond what might have been considered evidence of an ordinary brawl. In any case, the police unfortunately will have great difficulty in bringing to justice the murderer of murderers. Great fire at the London warehouses. The fire broke out shortly before 9 o'clock on Thursday night on one of the huge warehouses in the London warehouses. The warehouses were closed as usual at 4 in the afternoon, and there are then few persons except the night policemen and firemen left on the premises. At about 8:30, the smell of fire was noticed, and shortly afterwards there was an immense burst of flames from the top of one of the vast buildings right in the center of the warehouses. The volume of the fire was terrific, but at 9 o'clock the authorities of the fire brigade had heard nothing of the occurrence. Shortly afterwards, an alarm was given at the Whitechapel station, and the officials of the brigade instantly ordered every steamer to proceed to the scene, and the circulation of the news amongst the other stations caused steamers to be sent on from every district in London. On arrival in the engines, it was found that a fire of enormous strength was raging in the upper floors of a great building, about 150 yards long and half as broad. Flames could not have broken out in a more dangerous part of the warehouses than the site of this fire, Fat K warehouses. They were crammed with colonial produced in the upper floors and brandy and gin in the lower floors. Through the great iron-barred windows, the fire could be seen raging like a furnace, and the enormous tongues of bluish and yellowish flames, which constantly burst up with great roars, pointed to the fact that spirits were aiding the progress of the flames. The scene at 10:30 was an imposing one. In the enormous warehouses, crammed with goods of incalculable value, with vast buildings on every side, and with great vessels in the wet warehouses, firemen, policemen, and dock officers were either watching or aiding in endeavoring to extinguish the fire, while an enormous crowd gathered around great gates and gazed at the progress of the fire from a distance.
Let's go to the police station.
Alright. Let's explore the rest of Whitechapel a little bit. So this is the cul-de-sac. Just straight for now.
If you have the means, I can let you pass before everyone. But behind me.
Commercial Street.
Is she talking about butt stuff? She might be talking about butt stuff.
If you have the means.
Yeah.
I have no reason to go that way.
For orphans and other beggars. And this is so bleak.
This building is a clinic. I have no reason to go that way.
A gathering, Holmes, and policemen. Let's go see, perhaps.
No, Watson, we have some business to take care of, and we are better off remaining discreet. Let's go to the police station.
Alright, let's just go straight there. I think there's more shortcuts eventually, but...
So, gentlemen, have you found my police bag?
Not quite yet. Do you know a vagrant who goes by the name of the Captain?
Captain? Yes, an old sailor, strong as a Turk and tattooed from head to toe. The drink has turned him into a derelict.
He appears to be causing some problems for the caretaker of the building at the end of the street.
What do you want us to do? Every night, stairwells, halls, and porches become public dormitories, and people don't only come to sleep. I believe this man has a niece who puts him up sometimes. Her lodgings are in Commercial Street, right after the alley with the boarding house. You won't forget my folder, will you?
Alright.
Do you believe this woman will agree to have her uncle stay with her?
No idea. Oh well, let's go see her just the same.
We have no better leads, Watson, so we might as well.
There. This is where the niece of the captain must live. Good day, miss. Would you happen to be the niece of the man known as the captain?
Oh, yes, that would be me. What has he done this time? He isn't... Oh my God, I'm on my way.
Miss, we have come to ask if you could have your uncle come live with you. He sleeps under the windows of a boarding house, causes the caretaker no end of problems.
I know. I've lodged him for a while, and he was the same here. My landlord made me kick him out. I'm ashamed, you know. I never should have, given the state of his health. He coughs day and night.
There might be a way to calm his cough. I am a doctor. I could examine him.
You went to see a doctor at the clinic, but the medicine costs too much. I can hardly pay my rent.
We will see to it. Where might your uncle be found?
I don't know. He must be in the vicinity, but I don't know exactly where.
Alright.
We will find him.
Holmes, this is serious. Find an alcoholic in Whitechapel? A needle in a haystack would be easier.
Come, dear doctor, let's trust to our lucky star. Moreover, we also have our informers, remember?
Are you referring to those brats to whom you are always giving charity?
Exactly, my secret police. Some of them must surely roam in this area. It suffices to find them.
Alright. Oh, I guess we have found one already. And he's just behind us. How convenient.
Hello, young man. How are you?
I recognize him. It's the lad who sells newspapers, who is always calling outside our windows at Baker Street, early in the morning.
Hello, Mr. Holmes. It's a treat to see you again. What can I do?
Would you happen to know an old sailor who goes by the name of the captain? A poor man who hits the bottle a bit hard.
Of course, Mr. Holmes. He's there at the end of the street. Round to the left he is. But be careful. He can be a tough customer, that one.
Very good, my young man. The doctor will give you a little something. Watson?
Huh? I say, Holmes?
Is he always such a skinflint with you, Mr. Holmes? Well, thanks to you, Mr. Holmes. Anytime you need me.
Alright, down and left.
I can hear someone coughing more than is natural, Holmes.
Yes, Watson. The poor man cannot be too far away. If, in order to listen to us, this man imposes as condition that we find his pet cockroach, there will be another murder in Whitechapel today, Watson. Yours.
Ah. He is in a critical state, Holmes. He has barely a month left.
Is there a way, dear doctor, to ensure that this last month passes in silence?
Really, Holmes, sometimes you... Oh, really? I will make note of some medicine to get immediately that will relieve his pain.
Very well. I will locate an apothecary or a clinic.
Already have.
Good day, sir. Dr. Gibbons. You aren't from around these parts.
Indeed, Doctor. It is for someone from your neighborhood that I am here, though. His doctor asked that I acquire some medicine on his behalf. I have the note here.
Dr. Watson? Not from round here neither. This medication is quite dear. Certain documents are necessary to obtain them for free.
I don't have it. You'll have to accept my spare change. Will it be enough?
Enough to relieve your patient for a month. Would you like me to make this prescription available after that time?
According to Dr. Watson, that won't be necessary.
The possibility of a recovery?
A definitive one, yes.
There, sir.
Thank you. It's rather quiet here.
An unusual chain of events. The majority of the people hereabouts went out last night to see the great fire at the warehouse. The patients that I was minding and my staff were no exception. The former were dramatically healed, and the latter ended up sick. And with the murder last night, most of the people who weren't working wandered over to the scene of the crime. Their little aches and pains will wait until tonight or tomorrow.
A squalid murder, it would seem.
Just like what this area has become.
All right.
My thanks, Doctor.
Not at all.
Here is the medication, Watson. Is our man movable?
He should be able to stand in a few minutes and will no longer be suffering from his cough before long.
Consider the affair resolved. Accompany him to his niece's while I return to the boarding house, and then join me at the police station. Let's return to the boarding house. I have good news for you, Mr. Finley. We have sent the captain to stay with a relative, and he shouldn't bother you for a while.
I also have some good news. I have your police bag.
Thank you. I bid you good day.
Oh, it was nothing. Tell me, one of my wife's friends lost...
Another day, Finley, another day. Let's go to the police station. Are you sure it's the police bag that you lost?
Yes, but someone attempted to force it open. They didn't succeed, but now the lock is stuck. Perhaps you could...
Let's see.
All right. Yes, everything needs to add up to the same number, right? The numbers are 1 to 6. Oh no, I just need to post them in the correct order. Boom. There we go.
All done.
A big thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Think nothing of it, my friend. So, the reports.
Why don't you wait till the inspectors get back? You would certainly learn more.
If I wanted to meet the inspectors, I would have done so. So, give me the preliminary reports, and above all, do not mention my visit to anyone. Is that clear?
Sure, if that's what you want. Here are the reports.
Thank you.
Death of Paula Nichols, 31st August, 1888. Autopsy report by Dr. Henry Elwin, surgeon. Her throat had been cut from left to right, 2 distinct cuts being on the left side, the windpipe, gullet, and spinal cord being cut through. A bruise apparently of a thumb being on the right lower jaw, also one on the left cheek. The abdomen had been cut open from the center of the bottom of the ribs to along the right side, under the pelvis to the left of the stomach. There the wound was jagged. The omentum of cutting of the stomach was also cut in several places, and 2 small stabs on private parts, apparently done with a strong bladed knife. Supposed to have been done by some left-handed person, death being almost instant.
Have you obtained the preliminary reports?
Yes, we'll read them on the go. Let's to the scene of the crime at Bucks Row, Watson.
Two.
But what are all these people doing here, Holmes?
Apparently, they came to see the scene of the crime.
What about us? Aren't we going to see it?
We will return this evening, Watson. The circumstances shall be ideal for carrying out our little experiments. Well,
Later.
Watson, we are at the scene of the Polly Nichols murder. Imagine the victim lying at the spot where she
It is
was
now
found
10 p.m.
and try to discern all of the clues we can. Watson, you are a writer. I am therefore entrusting you with our deduction board. It will help us to establish certain facts.
Understood, Holmes.
The body was lying on its back, legs straight and slightly apart. The skirt had been lifted up to the middle of the body. The left hand was touching the barn door. The body was still warm. Let's reread the preliminary report for the details on the wounds inflicted upon this poor woman. No signs of blood. There is a black bonnet near the left hand. No marks on the ground. The ground is muddy. Let's look at this poor woman more closely.
Jeez.
A small pool of blood, 6 inches in diameter. The tongue is swollen. The throat was slit from left to right. There are 2 incisions.
I'm not sure that there is anything else from. Oh,
There's a bruise on the left cheek. There's a bruise at the level of the right maxilla. There's a bruise on the left cheek. The throat was slit from left. The throat was slit from.
all right. Let's check out the deduction board. The first time they do something like this, it sort of becomes a staple of the series. You know, I don't hate it. Alright, no traces of blood on the walls. The victim had her throat slit. Don't have her throat slit while standing. There's a little pool of blood. Blood didn't flow in strong spurts. Ground is damp and dirty. I guess he could not have had relations on the ground? Dead before being searched out and having her throat slit. Corpse was warm, the footsteps on the ground, the murderer could open her throat. Victim wasn't dragged, which means that the murder took place on the premises. Tongue is bloated, which means she was suffocated. Oh, well. Missing something, I guess. Oh yeah, strangle versus suffocated. Sure. Victim a bruise on the right jawbone, hard pressure with fingers. So I am still missing something.
Let's look at this poor woman. There's a bruise on the left. The tongue is swollen. There's a bruise at the left. The throat was slit from left.
Not entirely sure what I'm missing.
A small pool of blood. The throat was slit from left.
I don't think there's anything else around. Maybe it's something nearby? Yes.
This spot is deserted, Holmes. The prostitutes only come here to exercise.
There is only one streetlight lit on this street, Watson, and this spot is particularly poorly lit. Well, Watson, we have found all of the possible clues, I think. We will now attempt to recreate the scene of the murder. Come closer, Watson. I have to make you up.
You are joking, Holmes? I feel ridiculous, Holmes.
Now, Watson, come and stand here in front of me. You shall play the role of the poor woman and I shall play that of the murderer. Let's try to reconstruct the facts to ensure the final result corresponds indisputably to the way that Polly Nichols was killed. I hope that, as with the real murder, nobody had to witness all of that, Watson. If the murderer used his right hand astride his victim, there wasn't much room. The murderer had enough room to inflict the wounds to the neck, and these wounds suggest the left hand was used.
Alright. Good. The victim was holding the bonnet. The victim wasn't afraid. Was ready to exercise.
No, I don't think that things went like that. No, I don't think that... This position is unlikely. If the killer positioned himself to the side of the victim to slit her throat, regardless of which hand he used, No, had the victim had her throat slit while standing, then... Sorry, Watson. No, the victim wasn't already lying down on the ground. This position is unlikely. Yes, it's quite possible the events occurred like this.
Which, to be fair, we've seen it happen, so we
My
had a
dear
bit of an
Watson,
advantage in
now
this.
that we have found all of our clues, nothing remains but to subject them to our most likely hypotheses in order to deduce the facts.
Right? The killer's left hand prevents the victim from screaming. Strangled the victim with his right hand. His throat was slit from left to right. So, Alright.
The victim was most probably dead before being laid down. Once the heart stopped, gravity drained the body slowly, not in a heavy spurt that would have stained half the street.
Thank you, Holmes. I understand why you told me not to change clothes. Do you realize that our behavior didn't alarm anyone?
The victim's ordeal was even more discreet. By acting in silence, we have confirmed something. The crime definitely took place here. The victim and her murderer were able to come here without making any noise, and afterwards the murder took place without the slightest cry being uttered. Come, Watson, let's go home. We have spent far too long in this sinister alley. And so, my dear Watson, the day and night which we passed in Whitechapel were enlightening, weren't they?
An adventure that I most certainly will never relate. To be in the skin of that poor woman. I prefer not to speak of it further. But have we really learned anything about the murderer? Obviously a man, given the necessary strength.
We have little to go on, at least no more than the police. But in my opinion, Inspector Aberline has a trick or two up his sleeve. No, I want to talk about the facts and what we can draw from them. We know where the crime was committed and under what conditions. I would like to ask you about the possible motives for the crime. According to you, Watson, what could have pushed the murderer to act in such a way?
Alright, might be some black magic. Cannot be theft.
Theft, perhaps.
I have a hard time believing that someone would attack poor Polly so fiercely just to rob her of a few coins.
Madness.
Homicidal insanity, Holmes.
It is indubitable that the man who did this to Polly Nichols is not of his full senses.
Black magic?
I'm not terribly interested in the occult or black magic. Let's give the benefit of the doubt to this motive.
Revenge could be possible.
Revenge, Holmes?
Revenge could be a possible motive, but with one small reservation. We have reason to believe that the victim considered her murderer to be a typical client.
And finally, probably not love.
Elementary. Very well, Watson. I think that we've exhausted the topic. Take a rest and we'll speak again later.
Ah, it would seem
A week
that the
later,
investigation is
hereabouts.
advancing, Holmes. Yesterday's Star said that a suspect is in the hands of the police, a man with a rather sinister reputation.
I was about to join you in your optimistic outlook until you informed me that the good news came from the press, Watson.
But surely they wouldn't invent the fact that the police are holding a suspect, or the acts that are attributed to him.
You will have an exact answer to these two questions in less than 50 seconds, Watson.
Pardon?
Enter, Inspector.
Good day.
Dear Watson, allow me to introduce Inspector Aberline, Inspector Dr. Watson.
Inspector?
To what do we owe the honour of your presence, Inspector?
I heard that the two of you made your way to Whitechapel a few days ago. Your arrival, you are aware, coincides with a very serious affair which our police service is going to great lengths to solve and which is creating strong tensions in the area.
Pardon me, but haven't you arrested someone? A certain Leather Apron?
Absolutely not. The man who hides behind this name is indeed being actively searched for by the force. Besides, nothing at the moment suggests that he is the Bucks Row murderer.
There, you've been enlightened, Watson. Now it is our turn to answer Inspector Aberline's questions.
Indeed. I will be brief and precise. Do you intend to investigate this case, or have you already started?
It is to be of service to a friend that I went to Whitechapel. We did, out of curiosity, familiarize ourselves with the preliminary reports, and we made our way to the scene of the crime. Our conclusions are slim, as are the clues. Having not been officially appointed by a client, I believe that my intervention in this business will end there.
Very well. To be frank, you take the weight off my shoulders by distancing yourself from the case. Our image isn't very good, to say nothing of what the press puts us through. Thus, if overnight they found out that you were on the case, people would turn against us.
And they would pester me, overwhelm me, and finally make me out to be responsible for the inevitable failure such a scenario entails. Neither you nor I wish for this to happen. I know that your time is precious, Inspector. I will send you a note regarding my conclusions shortly.
With pleasure. Gentlemen?
Do you think that he will find the murderer?
The chances are slim to non-existent. It is 7 days now, short of a confession from the murderer himself.
And you will not go further?
You heard the Inspector, Watson. My presence in Whitechapel would hinder, which doesn't mean that we will drop the case.
How is that?
The Inspector spoke of me, but not of us. It is you, Watson, who will lead the investigation tonight. It is you who will bring to the police station the little note that I will write.
Watson taking a
regarding our
more active
conclusions.
role this time.
Despite the late hour, there is nothing to stop you from making inquiries about this famous leather apron while you are there.
Alright. Letter Apron. More about his career, his latest movement in the borough. Sense of fear which the murder of the unfortunate woman Nichols has thrown over the neighborhood, and especially over her companions, shows no sign of decreasing. Number of the street wanderers are in nightly terror of Leather Apron. One of our reporters visited one of the single women's lodging houses last night. It is in Thrall Street, one of the darkest and most terrible looking spots in Whitechapel. The house keeps open till 1 o'clock in the morning and reopens again at 5. The house nightly are 66 women who get their bed for 4 shillings. The proprietor of the place, who is also owner of several other houses of a similar character in the neighborhood, told some gruesome stories of the man who has now come to be regarded as the terror of the East End. Night after night, he said, had women come in a fainting condition after being knocked about by a leather apron. He himself would never be out in the neighborhood after 12 o'clock at night, except with a loaded revolver. The terror, he said, would go to a public house or coffee room and peep in through the window to see if a particular woman was there. He would then vanish, lying in wait for his victim at some convenient corner, hidden from the view of everybody. The police are making efforts to arrest him, but he constantly changes his quarters. Some of the unfortunate women state that he is now in one of the low slums in the borough. One of them said she saw him crossing London Bridge as stealthily as usual, with head bent, his skimpy coat turned up about his ears, and looking as if he were in a desperate hurry. The hunt for Leather Apron began in earnest last evening. Constables 43 and 173 J Division, into whose hands Leather Apron fell on Sunday afternoon, were detailed to accompany Detective Enright of the J Division in a search through all the quarters where the crazy Jew was likely to be. They began at 10:30 in Church Street in Shoreditch, rumor having located the suspected man there. They went through lodging houses, into pubs, downside streets, threw their bullseyes into every shadow, and searched the quarter thoroughly, but without result. The hunt continued, later down in Brick Lane neighborhood. Florendone's Lane being Leather Apron's preferred lodging place lately. He was not found here, however. A search, which then took the direction of the London hospital, resulted in nothing. It is the general belief that the man had left the district. The clue furnished by the woman who denounced the man on Sunday is a very unfortunate one. Our offer to prove by 2 women that Leather Apron was seen walking with the murdered woman in Baker's Row 2 o'clock last Friday morning is the most direct bit of evidence that has yet appeared. His conduct on Sunday was as usual. He never answers a question when it is put to him, and only speaks under strong compulsion. Mike, the grocer in George's Yard, dwelt a long time last evening on this peculiarity. He knows Leather Apron very well and has known him for 6 years. He says that the man is unquestionably mad, that anybody who met him face to face would know it, that his eyes are never still but are always shifting uneasily, and he never looks anybody in the eye. Leather Apron used to live in the lodging house on the corner from the grocery and was turned out of there some months ago with an order not to return. The lodging house is a few doors below the model doorway in which the Turner woman was found with 39. So I guess I should go Police station?
Well, if I follow Holmes's instructions, then to begin my investigation into this leather apron, I must first head to the police station.
Let's go.
Good evening, sir. What do you... I know you. You were here last week with Sherlock Holmes.
Indeed, I was.
Indeed. I have come to bring a message from Sherlock Holmes for Inspector Aberline.
Very well, I will pass it on. But come to think of it, someone was asking about you recently. Finley, the caretaker of some shady boarding house nearby. Does that mean anything to you?
Ah, perhaps.
That.
Actually, I read in the Star that you have arrested a suspect called Leather Apron.
You shouldn't believe what you read in that rag, sir. The man is being hunted, but we have yet to get our hands on him, and we aren't close to it either.
Why ever not?
Bah, he's a specialist in the streetwalker racket. These girls make pitiful witnesses, and we don't inspire confidence. Furthermore, the man seems to be pretty discreet lately. Someone must be helping to hide him.
How to get on his trail, then?
One of these girls would have to confide in us and give a valid description of the man. Then we'd ask around the journeymen, who use aprons, I imagine.
Well, goodbye. I must go to Finley's boarding house.
Just go on foot because it's close enough.
Good evening, Finley.
Oh, good evening, sir. Aren't you the gentleman who was with the great detective the other time?
That is indeed me, Dr. Watson. Tell me, Finley, I was told that you were looking for us at the police station.
Indeed, I wanted to thank you for last time, you know. That vagrant has never set foot round mine again. I even found a tenant, one who pays his rent, I mean.
You don't seem very happy, but you were lucky to have found a good tenant so quickly.
It's just that this man is very strange. He paid several days in advance and I gave him a key to the place. Since then, he goes out every night and returns at ungodly hours. I'm sure he goes to visit the ladies, but still, every night. And when he moved in, something must have broken in his case and stank up the stairs in his room for 2 days. I think it was a jar. It must be over there.
Tell me, have you heard talk of Leather Apron?
By the papers, that's all. This man seems very sinister.
Do you know any journeymen who use this type of apron?
The slaughterhouse butchers, I believe, but definitely the cobblers. I know one, old Isaac Solomonovich. His workshop is on a small street in the Jewish community, across from the hospital.
Okay.
He's a good man. He can help you. But you know, the people there are very close and don't share much with non-Jews.
Thank you, Finley.
At your service, sir.
This odour is very strong indeed, but the whole neighbourhood as such has a dreadful stench. Finley might have an idea as to what this jar that contained.
What do you want, Doctor?
You're right, the pieces of the jar that your tenant broke do give off a strange smell.
It's true. That's quite normal given his trade.
Yes, and what would the trade be of your strange tenant?
A doctor, like yourself, I believe. Dr. Tumblety, a foreigner. Canadian, perhaps.
Dr. Tumblety. It might be interesting to know more about him.
All right.
Thank you, Finley.
At your service, sir.
Well, there's some nails here. I'll have to pick them up eventually, I guess. Go look up Solomonovich. I think that small street down the hospital. Isaac Solomonovich. There
A
we go.
cobbler's shop. Closed. I will return later. The policeman said the street girls would know something about the Leather Apron. Maybe I should go and see Lucy.
Lucy being, I guess, the... yeah, this woman.
Oh, it's you. I'm coming. Dr. Watson, how are you?
Well, and yourself? And how's your uncle?
Oh, he sleeps a lot, but he
Bob's
doesn't
my
seem
uncle.
to be suffering. Your medicine has
Hey.
worked wonders. Thank you again.
It was the least I could do. I have come to see you about a certain leather apron. Have you heard of him?
Oh, yes, of course. Terrible things are said about that man.
Have you ever come across him?
Goodness gracious, no. But I know that he has threatened and taken many girls in my situation. I don't know what more I can say, but Bella would be able to tell you some.
Who's Bella?
Who is Bella?
Bella Pullman. She's the landlady of the place where I could take you there if you like.
I get what you
Please
mean.
do.
I get what you mean.
It's me. It's Lucy. This gentleman would like to speak to Bella. It's the doctor who helped me. I must leave to return to my uncle. Thanks again.
Out of the way, I don't like the look of you.
What kind of voice was that?
Out of the way, I don't like the look of you.
Where? I don't like the look of you. Oh, this is a straight up brothel, huh?
If you'd be patient, Madam Bella will arrive in a moment.
Good evening. I am Dr. Watson. It is young Lucy who told me to come see you.
Ah, so you're the good Samaritan who saved her uncle without asking for anything in return. And now you've come to see me, no doubt, to explain that the poor little thing doesn't belong here, and you will see to her future. Well, if you expect me to let her leave with you...
It's not that, Ma'am. You should know I am a married man.
And why should that matter?
I believe there has been a misunderstanding. The reason that Lucy sent me here is that you may be able to give me some information about Leather Apron.
Are you a doctor or a constable?
I am most certainly a doctor, but I am acting in this matter in a private capacity, and I would like to find this man.
Well, if you're able to rid us of him, I'll give you a week's worth of free passes. That man is a thorn in our sides. He spies on the girls in the streets and watches them inside the houses, spying through the windows. And as soon as they're finished with a client, he jumps on them without any warning and forces them to give him their money. I've never seen him, but one of my girls was attacked by this man, and she said that he wore a leather apron and carried a knife. And his face, oh, he has a horrible head with rat's eyes and a deformed mouth. She even said that she knew his name, Pizer or Pizer, I think. But I don't know where she can be found. Margie, Nutcracker, the girl I'm talking about, could tell you more, but I had to let her go last week.
Where's Margie?
Why did you let Margie go?
The poor girl caught a shameful sickness, and the symptoms have attacked her face, if you know what I mean. So I gave her notice, and a little bit to help her along. I don't know where she is now, but she'll certainly be getting treatment at the clinic if she's still in the neighbourhood.
Did you speak to the police?
What would they do? Who cares about the girls in the streets?
Somebody has syphilis.
Would you have received a visit from another doctor, a stranger by the name of Tumblety?
I'm just like you, Doctor, sworn to secrecy in my profession. But as I've taken a fancy to you, I can tell you that this name is not unknown to me. And if you do me a little favour, it is possible I might remember something about him.
What favor?
What kind of favour must I do for you?
You see that man over there? He's a rich artist, a painter, a regular client round here. Well, yesterday, he came and left his cane in the umbrella stand in the hall before going into one of the rooms. Well, when he returned to this room, the cane had disappeared. It's a cane with a massive silver knob. Must be worth a fortune. He threatened to call the police unless he got free services in my establishment for a year. I'll be forced to accept, unwillingly, of course, given the services that he's demanding, unless the cane is found.
Did you question the residents regarding the theft?
They didn't see anything, and there's not one of them that would risk stealing from a client here.
Who was in the room when your weasel of a client was in the chambers?
There were a few that came and went, but Mary could tell you better than I can, because she was the one at the counter yesterday.
Thank you, ma'am.
No problem, my angel.
Where are you? Here you are.
What happened to this rug?
Oh, it's when we got a coal yesterday. I asked the young man to fill the pail. Came back to put it down, but his feet were covered in soot and he made a black print. Madam Bella said it was my fault and I got a shilling's penalty. I also have to clean the print and it's no picnic. He has immense feet, that boy.
I heard that there was a theft yesterday. Did you see anything?
No, and I was here the whole time.
Who delivers the coal?
It's never the same person. I've never seen that lad before.
Do you always keep an eye on the coat stand?
Oh, yes. Well, when the coal delivery came, a client came out of the chambers and stopped me from seeing the boy who brought the bucket of coal. You don't think he would have taken advantage?
Until next time, miss.
With pleasure, sir.
Alright, so the...
A large black footprint. Best not to stray off in that direction. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my dear man. I was led to believe that you're a doctor.
None of the residents of this establishment are among my patients, sir.
Oh, you're not here as a doctor, but as a man, then. I understand. This is my kind of place, too. It's in these houses in Whitechapel that you find the girls that are the most natural and definitely the most docile.
Your way of speaking about these women is not that of a gentleman, sir. I heard that you were the victim of a robbery here.
Oh, I'm not complaining. The loss of that walking stick will certainly bring me a very pleasant compensation.
What does your cane look like?
The stick is ebony, about 35 inches long. The round knob is made from chiseled silver with a ring around the middle of the same workmanship, just like the tip for that matter. If you find it, don't tell a soul. Keep it for yourself. Got it?
Alright.
Well, goodbye, sir.
Goodbye, or until next time. And good evening.
These paintings are suggestive, at the very least.
We're gonna find a coal man.
I have 8 children and 5 grandchildren. All beg...
I've wasted enough.
Tell me, is it...
You should return home, sir.
Well, let's go to the clinic first. Can at least find information on Margie. Maggie, or whatever her name was.
Good evening, Doctor. My name is Dr. Watson. Pleased to meet you.
Good evening. I am Dr. Gibbons. Likewise.
I have come to see you about one of your patients. Margie goes by the nickname Nutcracker, who gets her prescription from the clinic. She's a lady of the night and is afflicted with a venereal disease.
I know who you're talking about. Indeed, Margie has syphilis and is being treated with mercury.
Do you have her address?
No. And for your information, she left London for good 3 days ago. She felt threatened.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Margie felt threatened. But by whom?
I believe that Margie was particularly scared of a terrifying man who attacked her once.
Did she say the name Pizer or Pyther?
Unfortunately, she didn't give a name, but she described a man with shifty, rat-like eyes and a mouth twisted in a sinister grimace.
Did Margie have any idea where this man who terrified her so much might be found?
No, but she told me that another girl who'd been attacked like her had told her that this man worked in a cobbler's run by an old Israeli. Also, she saw him again last week, the night of the big fire. She told of going to see the fire like most everyone else in the area. While there, she recognised her attacker in the crowds gathered at the warehouses. There was no mistaking a face like that, she said. She kept an eye on the man the whole time the firemen were working in order to avoid him.
Goodbye, Dr. Gibbons.
Until we meet again, my dear colleague.
Right.
This interview with the doctor revealed an important fact. Leather Apron could not be the Bucks Row murderer. According to Margie, the villain passed most of the night of the crime at the fire. He could not have been at the scene of the murder at the moment it was committed. He is nonetheless a dangerous character.
Alright, let's go try and talk to the cobbler again.
Closed.
How do I find a coal cellar? Walk around.
If you have the means, I can let you...
Yeah, sure. Let me maybe talk to the madame again.
Yes,
Thank you, Ma'am.
no problem.
Things are suggestive. We talk to her.
Best not to stray off in that direction. These paintings are...
Oh, coal. Where do I find some? Oh.
The Wasp's Nest. This pub looks even more disreputable than the Golden Lion in Baker Street.
Let me go back and talk to the police. Maybe they have something they can tell me.
Does the name Tumblety mean anything to you?
Not at all. But if you like, I can make inquiries.
Fine, why not? One never knows.
Alright.
Well, goodbye.
Nothing in the police station itself, I bet.
Closed.
Yep.
Commercial Street. Burner Street. Thank you, Finley.
At your
There's nothing for me to explore up here or in this corner. It's a dead end. We've talked to Finley. Ebony 35 inches long. Chiseled silver with a ring in the middle. Just like the tip.
I have no reason to.
And to return to Baker Street.
These footprints are the same as those found on the rug at the brothel.
Okay, we might have found a
What can I do for you, my dear colleague?
trace.
Pardon me, Doctor, but who made the large black footprints there near the beds?
The brother of one of my patients. The poor thing had a leg amputated after colliding with a carriage. We arranged to find her a prosthesis.
Prostheses are very expensive. How did this man pay?
He told me that one of his uncles gave him a walking stick with a chiseled silver knob. I agreed to accept this knob in exchange for a simple prosthesis with harness. But this object is of great value, and I could finance half a dozen other prostheses by selling it on Petticoat Lane.
Doctor, I have reason to believe that the silver knob that you possess is from a cane that was stolen by the man who brought it to you, and I believe I know to whom it belongs.
That's what I was worried about. The story of the uncle seemed a little strange. Nevertheless, you must have proof of what you claim. I will show you all of the knobs that we have here. If you find the knob that the young man gave me, I will believe you.
So be it, but something is bothering me. I will need a complete cane, not just a knob.
Don't worry, dear chap, build one. I can loan you some tools. Make use of the odds and ends in my cupboard. It'll help get rid of it.
Well, I shall try. I will have to remember the description that Sickert gave.
Alright.
So be it, but...
Alright, didn't mean to do that.
Goodbye, Dr. Gibbons.
Until we meet...
Uh-huh. Alright, so it's the silver tip, silver middle thing, and it was 35 inches long, ebony.
There, all done. Holmes couldn't have done better himself.
What can I do for you, my dear colleague?
I believe I found the knob from the stolen cane, which I succeeded in putting back together.
That's the one. And yet I cannot give it to you, Doctor. I will only return it to the police, and only if there is an official complaint against me.
Would there be a way to convince you to give me the cane?
Find me a dozen solid adjustable harnesses for wooden leg prostheses, and it's yours, Doctor.
Alright.
Goodbye, Dr. Gibbons.
Until we meet again, my dear colleague.
That says, okay. Harnesses for wooden leg prosthesis. Cobbler should have a harness of some sort, right?
There's nobody here. How very odd. I say, these things look like harnesses. Oh my, they are noisy. Good evening, sir. Pardon the interruption. The door was open. I didn't think that I would find anyone working at this hour.
Good evening, sir. I didn't hear you come in.
Say, those things that made noise, they are really harnesses, aren't they?
Yes, horse harnesses. But I must tell you, sir, that the store is normally closed at this hour. That is why I've asked you to return tomorrow.
I didn't come about...
The accent is not great.
I came to speak of a cobbler, perhaps one of
Because
your
I have a
former
feeling it's
employees?
probably not a
Man
Jewish
with very
person doing
particular
that accent.
habits.
You aren't with the police by any chance? I'm sorry, but I do not want to speak of anything but shoes with you.
I am not a policeman. I am Dr. Watson. It's Mr. Finley, who told me that you might be in a position to inform me.
Ah, that Mr. Finley is a very brave man. And if he sent you, then you must certainly be a worthy man also. So, Doctor, who is this cobbler with strange habits?
The man of whom I speak is called Pizer or Pyther, a man with a frightening face. Do you know him?
Yes, John Pizer. He worked here for a while, but he is no longer here.
Do you know where I can find him?
No, and if you look, you will not find him.
Why?
Because he is in hiding, Doctor. You see, a week ago, a horrible murder took place in the neighborhood. A rumor circulated that he might have been responsible for this crime. They say he has quarreled with women of certain virtue in the past, if you understand me.
Isaac, it is about the Bucks Row case that I have come to see you. I have the certitude and an incontestable witness that Pizer is innocent, at least of this crime, although he has attacked a number of street women. If he doesn't come forward to explain himself to the authorities, he is condemned to hiding and to take the fall for this murder. Furthermore, it will cast suspicions on your community because they must be hiding him. And while the whole police force is hunting for him, they cannot concentrate on the real assassin who roams the streets and, one never knows, may take any one of you any day.
If what you say is true, your visit is a godsend to our community, Doctor. I tell you something. I know Sergeant Thick, an honest policeman who lives in the area. I'll tell John's family that he must go there to explain himself. But if you could please go as soon as possible to the police to give them this report that you say is incontestable.
I will go as soon as I take leave of you.
Thank you. If I can ever be of service in any way, do not hesitate to ask.
Actually, I do, now that you
Could we
mention it.
transform your horse harnesses into harnesses for wooden legs? Adjustable harnesses.
A good craftsman can do anything, Doctor. And I do believe that's what I am.
Those hand
Come back in a
gestures
while and it will be done.
make me
That
very
will be
uncomfortable.
my thanks for what you have done.
I shall return later.
At your convenience, sir.
I am spent. I would like to return home, but I promised to go to the police as soon as I could. Now then, let's go to the police station.
All right. Meanwhile, the Ripper having another victim.
Will you?
Yes.
Hey, Doctor, you seem tired. Were you wandering the darker parts of Whitechapel all night?
You could say that. I have some information on Leather Apron, the man of whom we spoke earlier.
Do you know where he is?
No, but I can clear him of the Bucks Row crime. A witness proved him totally innocent.
Oh, Watson, Watson, is it only now, after many hours of walking, that you decide to pass on the important message that Inspector Aberline is waiting for?
But, no. But what are you doing here, Holmes?
I was worried, Watson, and with good reason it would appear. Go give the message to this policeman and let's go home. Nobody appreciates me hanging around here, you know, and it's freezing cold.
Ah, Creddle, none too soon. You will take the testimony of this.
No, you continue with your duty shift. I must find Chandler in Ambury Street. He's struck again.
Who?
The murderer, the Bucks Row assassin.
Hanbury Street. Let's go, Watson. We have no time to lose.
Let's go. Which one is Henbury Street? I have no idea. I guess this means I have to... Oh boy.
I have no reason. I have
I don't think it's a separate one, right? Oh,
Hanbury Street. Let's go, Watson. We have no time to lose.
all right. Back on
Keep going,
Sherlock's
Mr. Holmes. She's there. We
shoes.
didn't touch a thing.
It was very good of PC Chandler to let us pass. He said no one has touched the corpse. It's the perfect opportunity for us to put our skills to the test. Watson, let's not waste it. So, Doctor, shall we examine our victim?
Ah, I'm tired, Holmes. I'm not sure if I am in a state to do this work.
Come, Watson, there is little time. Show me what you're made of.
Oh, my God.
Pray, Watson, pull yourself together. Can you establish the time of the crime?
The extremities of the corpse are cold and rigor mortis is beginning to set in. I would say that the murder was committed over 2 hours ago, before 4:30 a.m.
All right. Oh boy. London, 28 August 1888. Stereo, Success Richt. And then
A torn envelope. It smells of rubbing alcohol. It contains 3 pills. I will take one. 2 should suffice for the police. A piece of coarse muslin. 2 combs, curiously arranged. Let's look at this poor woman more closely. A bruise. The tongue is swollen. The victim's face appears to have bruising, wouldn't you say?
Under the maxilla and cheek. There is less on the right side.
Look at her neck. What can you tell me?
There are 2 incisions.
something about her fingernails. Something about a ground around her. Here's okay. That's gonna be it. That.
Now let's look at the stomach, or at least what remains of it.
It's dreadful, Holmes. Who could do that to someone?
That's what you're here for, Watson. Tell me what this man has done.
The stomach has been entirely opened and... Oh, my God! A number of organs have been removed.
So you're telling me that the organs were removed, Watson? They weren't ripped out?
Not at all, Holmes. On the contrary, this is clearly the work of an expert. I couldn't have done any better myself. And the uterus is missing.
That is freaky on so many fucking levels.
Looky here. It would seem he has a mark on his left hand. The victim must have worn a large ring or several little ones, and someone pulled them off forcefully. This detail will be very valuable, Watson. You can be sure of that.
Great.
There are no trails on the ground. There's no sign of a struggle.
What are we doing, Holmes?
Well, I wanted to check the...
The blood is a dozen inches or so from the ground. Blood stains on the wall. My dear Watson, now that we have found all of our clues, nothing remains but
Yeah, okay. The downside of this evidence board is that it's... You kind of can just brute force it, right? There for steps, no restrictions of blood on the ground. The victim wasn't dragged. Blood on the fence a dozen inches. Blood spurted on the wall near the altar. The victim has her throat slit while lying down and still alive. So the murder took place on the premises. Bruising on the right jawbone. So he held the victim's chin with his right hand. So he... Well, okay, right, because... Wait. No, he must have felt. Okay, it depends on what we mean by victim's chin. So her killer must be right-handed. Sean gets bloated. He was strangled. Partially strangled and her throat slit. Was... I think it's an envelope fell. Okay. And see, that's literally brute forcing it, right? As the victim's feet are very orderly, they must belong to the killer. Which means he searched her. And he is organized. Let's go. The experience in the workers had barely started. Barely 2 hours ago. Or 4:30 a.m. Victims had rings. It's not Chapman, it's the murderer that stole rings. Incision from the right to the left, going around the neck. Incision on the neck from the right side, stopping in the middle of the throat. When the neck is jerking it all in one place. Bad knife. Organs are missing. No, I guess he. I think he used a bad knife. The uterus was removed and taken. So he has knowledge of anatomy.
I hear a noise.
Brute force her to win.
The authorities are arriving. It's time for us to go.
Holmes has been locked away in his room for days, always saying the same things. I'm thinking, Watson. Very good, Watson. As you wish, Watson. But I am thinking too, so much so that I can't sleep. Annie Chapman. Good Lord. Holmes examined the broken jar that belonged to Finley's tenant. I wonder what this substance is. I don't recognize the odor.
Oh, formalin, Watson. This jar contained formalin. Interesting, don't you think? I've been waiting for something for days. Just the tiniest bit of news that would make sense of this whole matter. But there's nothing, neither from the press nor the police. Unless Inspector Aberline is holding on to some information without realizing its importance, which is quite possible. It is time for you to return to the police station in Whitechapel, Watson. And didn't you tell me that you had a matter to take care of it? Take advantage of it to learn more about this pill and its contents.
Ah, but Holmes, it's late, and spending another night in this district is hardly my idea of entertainment.
I know, Doctor, but we don't have any choice. Time is against us. Take your pistol in case you run into any troublesome characters.
Fine, as you wish, Holmes.
Alright, at least he recognizes it. Did he say to get to the police station, I believe, right?
Good evening. I hope I'm not disturbing you.
Not at all, Doctor. This man, Mr. Richardson, is a witness to the horrid affair at 29 Hanbury Street, the murder of Annie Chapman. We are discussing the relevance of his testimony.
You're probably not in a position to discuss it with me, But I would like to know more about what you call the relevance of this young man's testimony.
Oh, there's no secrecy. It's simply that the testimony given by Mr. Richardson doesn't match the time of death given by the coroner, Dr. Phillips.
What was the time of death, according to him?
Before 4:30 in the morning.
My conclusions were the same. Were there any other conflicting testimonies?
Well, 2 other witnesses summoned at the preliminary inquest gave testimony, but in these cases too, the times don't match.
Do you remember what it was they said?
I didn't question them myself. A colleague of mine took down their statements on paper, but on deciding they were of little use, he tore them up and threw them in the bin. There's no point in being bogged down with useless paperwork.
I will take my leave, Humphreys.
Goodbye, Doctor.
Can I talk to this guy directly?
May I introduce myself? I'm Dr. Watson. I am...
You wouldn't be the chap what writes the detective stories in that there paper?
Well, yes, indeed, my stories have been published in the Strand.
Go, blimey, wanna tell me old mum?
It would seem your testimony is the subject of some debate. Could you tell me what it was about?
They'll be telling I'm a bit befuddled about the times that I told them. But it can't be so. I knows what I sees and what I don't sees that morning.
What did you see, or what didn't you see? And at what time, would you say?
I'll tell you this for nothing. It's me old mum who lives at the house where the body was found out back in the garden. She has her shop at the bottom to the right of the stairs. Her door was broken down not too far back because it's a real zoo it is. Right, the morning it happened, I head that way to see if me old mum has finally had the place broken into. It was 4:45 when I got there. That I'll swear on me dear old mum's life. I had a look round to see if the cellar had been taken. No. I had a little sit down on the stairs by the courtyard because me shoes were causing me no end of pain and I had a cut and all. I didn't see a single thing below the steps, Doctor, not one single thing. If there was some bird all covered in blood, tain't no how I could have missed that, even if it were night time. Right, 5 minutes after getting to number 29, I had to clip off. And now they tells me that either I can't tell time no more, or I was fixing me loafer next to a stiff that was still steaming. All right then. Evening, gents.
That was a lot, but okay. Where's the bin?
Here are the ripped statements. I can piece them together again.
All right. Okay. Here. Hey, I was lucky enough to put them already, separate them properly. Yep, no, that was right. There. 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 Nope. Okay, that's one.
There, all done. Holmes couldn't have done better himself.
On the morning of the murder, the witness left her domicile at 32 Church Street at approximately 5 a.m. to get to Spitalfields Market. She was passing down Hanbury Street at about 5:30 a.m. Witness was certain of the time, as she declares that she heard the clock at the Black Eagle Brewery on Brick Lane strike the half hour just before she entered the street. In front of 29 Hanbury Street, she saw a man and a woman talking. It should be noted that the witness identified the body of Annie Chapman at the morgue as being the aforementioned woman. This identification was solicited by her services. The men seen with the victim was described by the witness as follows. Age, at least 40 years old. Height, a little taller than the woman with whom he was discussing, approximately 5 feet 3 inches. Clothing, brown deerstalker hat, dark coat, a dad on this point, general appearance of the working class. Particular markings, dark hair and mustache, dark face, looks like a foreigner. The witness only saw the man from behind and wouldn't be able to recognize or identify him. The term foreigner is often associated with a person of Jewish origin. Testimony of Akadosh. The witness resides at 27 Henry Street, a building adjoining number 29 of the same street, and the two respective backyards are separated by a wooden fence tall and thin. On the morning of the murder, the witness got up at 5:15 a.m. and was into the yard where the latrine was. It was then 5:20 a.m. On going back into the house, the witness heard voices from behind the fence coming from number 29. The only word that he understood was no. He went into the building again, but returned into the yard approximately 4 minutes later. Whereupon he heard a noise as if something fell against the fence. He then departed for work. When he passed in front of the Spitalfields Church, it was approximately 5:30. Just give me a second here. April 1886. At gunpoint from the White Plume Mountain Inn, also called the Kayak Affair. 5 years, Dartmoor. Benjamin Benny the Scholar Faggot, 46, Houndsnitch. Falsifying bank records, using false bank records, misappropriation of funds to the detriment of the Royal Bank of London, 8 years, Dartmoor. Jacob Levy, 30, Aldgate. Theft of a weight of meat from his employer, Hyman Sampson, butcher of at 58 Gloucester Street, Whitechapel. 20 months, Essex County Asylum. Ron Obvious, 26, address unknown, vagrancy, embezzlement, indecent assault, degradation of a religious building to the detriment of the authorities in charge of the Chichester Cathedral, City of London Lunatic Asylum, indeterminate duration. James Longfoot Jim Nazer, 20, Whitechapel.
An old report on arrests that took place a few years earlier.
Alright, let's do a couple more things and then call it for this bonus stream tonight. Let's go back to the... First of all, to the cobbler.
Good evening, Mr. Solomonovich.
Good evening, Doctor. What a pleasure to see you again.
Have you finished converting the harnesses?
Yes, just now. I got a little behind because of all the commotion.
What commotion?
Commotion?
Don't you start. 3 days ago, the very afternoon that you passed by, there was a chase throughout the neighborhood. Hundreds of people were chasing one man, claiming he was responsible for the murders these last few days. Schmonz! It was awful. I hope those maniacs didn't catch him. Better the police should.
Tell me, did John Pizer turn himself in to the police?
Things unfolded as they should. Look in the newspaper, the Daily News from today.
Farewell, Isaac.
Goodbye, Doctor.
The Whitechapel murders. There is a good reason why, without prejudice to the case of the man who is now in custody, the public acceptance of the maniacal theory should be endorsed and encouraged. There is positive danger in the growth of any other opinion at present in Whitechapel. As we have said, the mutilation of bodies, excepting in rare cases to further the murderer's chances of safety, is foreign to the English style of crime. There is a disposition at once, therefore, to set down such atrocities to the credit of some ill-bred and ill-nourished foreigner from the lowest dens of vice in Europe. So in Whitechapel, there was arising a murmur of ugly foreboding for some of the foreign elements there. The rumor of the silliest kind was beginning to take an odious precision, and there was an arising in the East End a Judenhetze more abhorrent than that which abroad is due to religious fanaticism. To hate the Jew for his religion, to call him misbeliever, cutthroat dog, and spit upon his Jewish gabardine, even metaphorically, is bad enough. But to call him leather apron and to imply thereby his readiness to murder women and to practice anatomy with his knife upon them is the refinement of cruelty. There was reason to fear till yesterday that the tendency towards thus insulting the Jews of Whitechapel was growing amid the embarrassing perplexity as to the origin of the murders. Police have discouraged this line of suspicion by acting momentarily upon it, and then proving by the release of the Jew whom they arrested there was no doubt of his innocence. For the happy result, we may look lightly upon the apparently ludicrous error of this arrest. Pizer, the man arrested, was found sitting quietly at home, totally undisturbed by any panic or bloodthirsty demand for that mythical personage leather apron. He is said to be a poor sickly man with whom it was not possible to associate with the assassin now so eagerly wanted, and the reporters seem to have found that the police might have easily also have learned that he had not left his house since Thursday last. Pizer, however, will probably not regret a short detention if it had finally put a stop to these anti-Jewish suspicions. The inquest on the body of Annie Chapman was opened yesterday, but without throwing any new light on the murder. As a result of investigations of the police into the circumstances of attending the murder of Annie Chapman in Whitechapel, several men were arrested yesterday on suspicion. The arrests, which were considered to be most important, were those of a Polish Jew named Pizer near the scene of the crime and a man named Pigot at Gravesend. Pizer was released last evening, but Pigot, being considered to be insane, is to be detained on.
Good evening, Dr. Gibbons.
Doctor.
Oh,
Well, farewell, Doctor.
Goodbye, Doctor.
I must retrieve Sickert's cane.
Yeah, just give you the harnesses.
Yes, Doctor?
Oh.
Did you keep the cane we spoke of last time?
I was going to sell it tomorrow, would you believe, having not heard word.
Here are your harnesses, Doctor.
They are top quality, I'd say. Definitely worth the price of this walking stick. Here, it's yours.
Do you have any formalin here?
No, definitely not. They have it in university hospitals to conserve anatomical specimens in jars. But in a little clinic like mine, we don't keep anything but bad memories.
All right.
Well, farewell, Doctor.
Goodbye, Doctor.
I must go to Miss Bella's.
Actually, I should show him this too.
Yes, Doctor?
Could you tell me what type of pill this is?
Yes, we have those here. It's not really a medication. We give them to patients with chronic respiratory conditions like tuberculosis.
Did you have a patient by the name of Annie Chapman, the woman killed 3 days ago?
Indeed. She came in the morning of her death. Poor woman.
Did you give her these pills?
Yes, now that I think of it. She actually came in twice. The first time I gave her an almost empty container without making her pay. She came back during the day and said she dropped the container and stepped on the pills. She wanted to know if I could give her more again without paying. I refused. After she left, a patient who was there told me that he lives at the same place and confided that she had been lying. He saw the pills fall in the tenement's communal kitchen, but the woman immediately wrapped them up in a piece of paper.
Where did this paper come from?
According to this man, she'd found it near the chimney in the kitchen.
Anyone could have thrown that paper there. That envelope can't have anything to do with the murder.
Pardon, Doctor?
Nothing. I was just talking to myself.
All right.
Well, farewell, Doctor.
Goodbye.
I must go to Miss Bella. Good evening, ma'am. Your door was open. Isn't that a little dangerous?
Hello, Doctor. Don't worry, if the looks of anyone who enters doesn't please me, me and my pistol know how to convince them to leave.
Do you happen to know Annie Chapman, the poor woman who was killed 3 days ago?
Dark Annie? Like all the drifters in the area, I've seen her once or twice. With respect to the dead, Annie really was the bottom of the barrel.
What do you mean?
Well, in our profession, the pretty young ones go out when night has barely fallen and don't have a problem finding takers. But poor girls like Annie or Polly Nichols, who aren't as tender and are often sick, sometimes trudge around for a whole night in the cold and the rain before landing a client. And that doesn't help their appearances either. They don't have much choice about paying for a bed for a few hours, a glass of gin or a hot meal.
How terribly sad.
That's the price of survival in Whitechapel, my angel. One of my girls knew Annie for some time. They bought some jewellery on the black market, I think.
Jewellery? How could Annie Chapman have possibly afforded jewellery?
Luxuries for a woman are always relative to her condition, Doctor. As a matter of fact, it was real cheap junk. Annie got 3 assorted brass rings, I think. It's been said I have a memory for jewellery.
I found the cane that was stolen from your client. Here it is.
Doctor, you are a real saint, I can see that. I'll finally be able to present my bill to this damned painter. If by chance you see him, tell him that a little surprise awaits him here.
Give me a second. It seems like my mic once again picking up some crap. La 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 sounds. Recording. I guess there's no boost anymore, so that should not happen. Oh well.
You told me you would give me some information on this Dr. Tumblety.
Agreed. He's a Canadian or an American. He parades from time to time through the neighbourhood in a 50-guinea suit and acts like a doctor. But for business, he isn't worth it. This damn Yankee hates women. The few times that he was approached by the girls, he spit on them. All the...
Okay, this is even worse in terms of picking up the mic. So I need to do this and do this. Lower the level a little bit. Low. Testing. I need to boost my level. OBS a little bit. Alright. Dude, this should have compensated for did. Alright. Now be good. Except I needed now to lower the noise gate. Okay, we should now be good. I see my voice going up and down. I will probably cut this out of the recording.
Does he frequent any pub in particular?
Aye, the Wasp's Nest on Burner Street, I think. A seedy spot.
Oh,
even by
fuck's
our
sake.
standards.
Why is audio fucking up again? Let me lower the game audio.
How is Lucy keeping?
She's doing well, Doctor. But believe me, it won't last. Rare are the girls who can build a future in our profession.
Very well, I shall let you get back to work, Mark.
See you soon, my love.
Okay. Okay, with all that, I was actually distracted as to what she was saying about the doctor. Yeah, let's get to the pub. That's our next goal.
The Wasp's Nest. This pub looks even more disreputable than the Golden Lion in Baker Street.
I swear to God, I will never understand audio issues.
Good evening, sir.
It'll be the coup of my career, Governor said. Ha! You'll make loads of doss of the paper, he said.
You're a journalist?
That's so. Tom Bulling at your service. The Whitechapel ferret, the wizard with the scoop.
You don't appear to be in a state to write anything, my friend.
You're mistaken. Whiskey passes through the blood and turns into ink. Simple. You see, mugs and inkwells are all the same.
Don't you think you should settle your tab and go home?
My red ink? Where's my red ink? I won't even pay half a halfpenny if they don't return my red ink. It's my blood you hear.
Very well, I'll be on my way. Good evening, sir.
Well, I know you. Why, we met at Miss Poolman's the other day. So you've come to slum it in Whitechapel, eh?
Do you know Dr. Tumblety, a Canadian or American chap? Quite an extravagant dresser. Frequents this pub now and then.
Are you intimate?
No. What do you mean by that?
Oh, nothing. Nothing at all. I just wanted to prove my discretion concerning this man, in so much and so far as I know him. You wouldn't like it if one day the tables were turned and everyone was talking about why you were in the borough. Isn't that so?
As it happens, I saw Miss Pullman recently. She told me that she couldn't wait to see you again. She said something about a surprise that is waiting for you at her establishment.
Why, that is some of the best news I've heard, my friend. As thanks, I would like to let you in on a secret. The man that you were talking about, and whom I happen to know by sight, passed by and went through that little door that you see over there. Another man let him in. They weren't together for more than a few minutes, to be sure, eh?
Well, I will continue my search.
Ah, love.
But what is this person trying to imply? This matter is beyond me. Greetings, my good man. Could I have a pint?
Here, Gov.
I've been told that Dr. Tumblety might be found around here. Is that so?
I don't do a roll call of all the drunkards here. I've got my hands full just making sure I get their money.
Don't people pay when they order?
Nah, look at that little scribbler there. Completely dead drunk. Tonight's tally is about as long as his arm. If he skips out, I'll be in for a guinea almost.
Jeez.
Goodbye, my friend.
Oi, that's it.
This is the sink where the barmaid puts the glasses to soak. Look, red ink. What's that doing here? The bottle is closed. There must still be some ink inside, and it looks like a glass. The barmaid must have put ink into the sink by mistake.
Right, do I get in your way? Me?
If you'll excuse me, sir.
Right, here's your ink.
You're the best. The boss told me. My red ink. Well, where's she be?
I found your red ink, my friend. You should settle up and head home.
Thank you, my friend, thank you. The spring-heeled phantom will be revived.
Gov?
Here you go. It's on the journalist, my friend.
I owe you one. The next one is on me. What'll it be?
Nothing, thanks. But I may need your help. Listen, my friend. I would like you to let me in the door over there.
You're a bobby? A peeler?
Absolutely not, my friend. I am a doctor.
Fine. I owe you this at least. There's a bloke behind that door there. No pity Bluto.
No
Let's just
pity
say he wants to
Bluto.
lay low for a moment. So I don't think he'll be opening the door just now. Unless... Tell him you have word from Squibby. That'll open the door. But who can say what'll happen when the door closes?
Goodbye, my friend.
Oi, that's it.
Let me in. I have news from Squibby. But stay calm.
And who are you? Where's Squibby? He's out.
To be honest, I don't actually know this Squibby chap. I was actually wondering if you knew Dr. Tumblety.
Great way of playing the part, Dr. Watson.
Sure we know him.
Excellent. Can you...
You know about gas?
I'm afraid not. I am a doctor.
Then I ain't interested. You can be leaving now. But if I find out who snitched to the peelers, I'll find you. Got it?
But I can pay you for...
Keep your coins for the paupers, or one of the gas boys who ain't afraid of nothing and knows how to hold his tongue. You bring him to me. I'll meet with you.
All right. I'm not sure where to go next, so this might be a good time to close it. Let me maybe walk to... or port to... boarding house.
There is a strong smell of gas. It seems to be coming from the abandoned building.
Alright, this is a good spot to save it. Alright, oh, I realized that I forgot to check if the saving worked. Okay, thank God. Alright. This is gonna do it for us today at twitch.tv/gameswithnick. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon to play through some of Assassin's Creed, having a good time doing that. Feel free to click the follow button, hit the bell so you know when I go live for Boon streams like this one. And if you want to check out my VODs, those are on youtube.com/gameswithnick. They go live roughly a week after I stream them on Twitch. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment. I always appreciate engaging with my audience. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you, and until